This is Car Guys Talk with Andrew and Tavarish.
A lot of car companies, they will tune a car to 91 because that's what California has.
Standard, yeah.
That's a standard. But most places that aren't, communist utopias, they have 93, sometimes 94.
Yes.
Some places in New Jersey had 94, but you don't want to go to Jersey.
No, I don't.
So, but 93 is pretty much the standard here. And you can get a little more power. It's not like a ton of power.
Yeah.
But you can get a better timing curve without the risk of detonation. And I think that's probably the best kind of tune to go to.
For me, what I think I would really enjoy in my car, and it's pretty simple, is to do what's called an E30 tune. So instead of E85, which is 85% ethanol, basically in the ST, I don't know what the ratio would be in other cars, but in the ST, I would do 3 gallons of E85 and then the rest 93.
Yeah,
and so,
but it has to be on an empty tank, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, or close to empty tank. Yeah. And that's
it has to be at least 30% ethanol.
Yes.
Yeah. So. Yeah. But what does that do? Like the problem that I'd have with that is just, well, actually it wouldn't be that big of a problem because with an ethanol tune, what they would do is they would just kind of treat it like race gas.
Right.
But E30 would be like race gas light.
Sure.
So they would just up the timing curves. They would give you a little more boost, that sort of thing, and give you a little more power, at the cost of fuel consumption because E30, ethanol burns
a lot quicker
because there's less energy in a unit of ethanol versus gasoline. So it's definitely a trade-off.
Well, what the cool thing is, very close to where I live now, there is a gas station that has started carrying E85, and a lot of the guys in the Focus ST group have tested it, and it rings in true as like true 85. Like a lot of times it'll be as low as like 50.
Yeah. It varies. I think it varies not even from pump to pump. It varies like
from
time of day. Yeah. So sometimes they mix stuff up. Nobody knows,
Right.
So they go,
it's been consistently in the 80s.
Yeah.
Over multiple weeks of testing.
So that's awesome.
Yeah.
So you should do that. That's interesting tune. Like you have all the components there just kind of from stock, and all you do is change some parameters, and then you get more power, you get better efficiency.
I think there are some prerequisites for running an E30 tune. I haven't really looked into it too much, other than I know that it's like, again, it's a bang for buck, because going full E85 in this car, it's really expensive, and the horsepower gains are not that much bigger than just going E30. So,
well, the horsepower gains are probably a little bit better if you have more mods. So if you have like a bigger turbo,
sure.
Maybe. Because the guy I spoke to with the Focus ST that has all this stuff, he said he doesn't run E85, but he runs methanol. And he runs it because in Florida it gets really hot.
Very.
And the fuel doesn't like a hot intake charge. So he says that's the only way you run like a lot of boost, because it cools the intake charge. But another way you can do it is E85.
Yeah.
Because E85 it's more stable of a fuel. So, but you do the E30. Do you know what else has to go into that E30 tune?
Not exactly.
That's actually the first time I've heard of something like that, where you just put in 3 gallons or something, and then I guess that's good enough.
Yeah, I really the first thing that I need to do before I go any higher in the horsepower department is I need to do intercooler and like piping and stuff. Like the charge temps on my car the STs are notorious for heat soak.
So charge temps. Quick primer for those who don't know what charge temps is.
Yeah.
Intake, the intake temperature, the air going into the engine, that has a temperature, and the lower that temperature is, the more dense that air is. So the higher it is, the more volatile it's going to be when it mixes with gas, and the less power you're going to make, and the more you're more likely to introduce knock and stuff like that.
Yep.
So you don't want that to be super hot. That's why you want a cold air intake instead of a hot air intake.
Yeah.
And with an intercooler, that turbo, the air goes into an intake, into your turbo, gets compressed. That compressed air gets hot. It gets heated because it's compressed.
Friction, yeah.
Yeah. And then it goes into an intercooler, and that intercooler cools the charge air down, and then that actually loses some of the pressure. There's a little bit of pressure drop,
somewhat, yeah.
But then it goes into your engine, and it's nice and cool, and it's boost, and it's just so good.
Yes.
But if you don't have an intercooler, well, you do have an intercooler. It's a stock
intercooler, yeah.
But it's not. It's not very good.
Yeah,
it's just small. It's not. It's the stock components on some of these things. They're made for like 1 or 2 pulls or something like that, and then that's it.
Yeah. There's no consistency.
Yeah.
In power, like the car pulls much harder when it's it's only been running for 5 minutes as opposed to taking a road trip, and then it falls on its face.
Yeah. So it just becomes heat soaked, and I mean that's just a characteristic of all engines. Just taking the heat away from the places where you don't want heat. So it's when you look at Forza or like Need for Speed or something, like an intercooler like adds 30 horsepower. It's like it doesn't really.
It's just it adds consistency.
Yeah, it just adds consistency.
It's a safety measure.
Right.
Yeah.
But you can't do plus consistency on
no.
Forza.